Are you thinking about moving to Toronto, but you want to get the real goods? Well, then this video is for you. In this video, I'm going to share with you a podcast that I did called Want to Move Here. And in that podcast, the host interviews agents from around the world about moving to their individual cities. And he interviewed me about moving to Toronto, and he digs deep. So if you want the real goods, then this video is for you. So let's get to it. Hi everybody, my name is Connie Sarvananthan and I'm a real estate agent here in Toronto and the GTA, and welcome to Living in Toronto. This channel is all about living in Toronto, moving to Toronto, and buying and selling real estate in Toronto. In this video, I'm going to share with you a podcast that I did called Want to Move Here. This is going to be a two-part series. The actual podcast was an hour long, but I cut it down to 40 minutes, so each of the parts will be about 20 minutes. The first part will deal with things like landscape and weather and transportation, and then the second part will deal with things like employers and entertainment and of course housing and what you can expect to pay in Toronto. So the podcast is done by a gentleman named Derek Bicksler, who's a real estate agent in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and he interviews agents from around the world about moving to their cities. So you can find things like Portugal, you can find places like Nigeria. He does cities all throughout the US and Canada. So mine is specifically about moving to Toronto. So let's get right to it.
So what are, about employment, what are the major employers, the major industries there, other than tourism's probably pretty big, right?
Yeah, so the beauty of Toronto is that first of all, we have a diverse population, but we also have diverse employers, which is great because we're not reliant on one employer or one type of industry. When there's changes, there's other employers to work for. So we have big banks. So unlike the US, we have like some major big banks that are huge employers. And financial institutions as a whole, whether they be, companies like Onyx, who owns a bunch of smaller companies, or it be, some of the accounting firms, things like that. We also have companies like Magna and Celestica, who are manufacturers. And then the other big employer is the government. So if you are a resident of Ontario and you live and work here, healthcare is for free, right? And so the management of the healthcare, whether it be the hospitals, all the staff, all of that. So Ontario OHIP, which is the Ontario Health Insurance Plan, that is a huge employer. Our school system is also, we have great schools in Toronto, and our public school system, which is funded by the government, that's a big employer as well. So like I said, it's pretty diverse. So what's interesting that's happening in Toronto is we also have a pretty good tech sector, and we do a lot of things to attract more tech companies into Toronto, particularly startups and things like that. And what we're finding is a lot of the bigger companies are starting to choose Toronto as our Canadian headquarters. So, this year, Netflix, Amazon, and Reddit are all planning on setting up offices in Toronto, in addition to the ones that are already here. Yeah. So
HBO is still there?
HBO, no. So HBO, AT&T, when we got bought out by AT&T, they decided to close down some of the smaller HBO offices. They still have offices here for some of their other businesses, but not for HBO. And that was more about a merger than anything else. But remember, the Canadian dollar is also right now, one US dollar is worth about $1.25 to $1.30 Canadian. So for these companies that are investing in Toronto, or Canada for that matter, if say they have to go and open an office, your costs are pretty cheap right now to go and open that office. Salaries are also cheaper right now. That may change because, our dollar does go up and down. But right now it's a great time to invest, especially if you're investing in office space and things like that.
Yeah, is it fair to say that Toronto is kind of like the New York City of Canada, or the London, the Dubai, the Sydney of Canada?
For sure. Yeah.
Okay, because that can kind of give people a picture. It's like a big city, and when we get again to the prices of the stuff there, you'll understand a little bit more. But this is like a big, giant city.
Yeah. There's three major cities in Toronto, Vancouver, Toronto, or sorry, three major cities in Canada. Vancouver, Toronto, and Montreal are kind of the well-known ones, and Calgary's up there. It can be up there too, but Toronto is definitely the one that everybody thinks of. And because of certain things that have happened, it is a more business friendly. So
Yeah, it's definitely the first. If you ask me, the first name a Canadian city, Toronto would probably be. Well, I don't know. Is Whistler an actual city or town?
it is.
That's
Well,
probably what I would say first. But
Whistler,
after that,
yes, it's an area too. So yeah. So you fly into Whistler, yes, and
which
it's
is actually a
beautiful.
perfect segue to what is there to do. I know that's way far away from you, but what is there to do where you are?
So there's a ton to do here, a ton. So remember, first of all, because of our diverse population, you can find entertainment any which way you want. So first of all, when it comes to entertainment, we have this huge Broadway scene. So most of the major musicals in New York come to Toronto. So our theater scene is great. We also have a lot of like smaller productions that would be brought in from around the world. So that's big. We also have, like we've already talked about, the major sports teams. So you can watch any sports team you want. Tons of concerts. Artists from around the world love coming here because, first of all, they already have a built-in base, but then they know that because Torontonians are so multicultural that they have, they have potential to grow that. People love spending time at the waterfront in Toronto here, but they also love going to their cottages. They also love going skiing and doing winter activities around. My typical, and then, if you want to go dancing, you want to go to a world-class restaurant, there's tons of options and activities to do that. And so you're not wanting for anything. And then we host every sort of festival you can think of, whether it be, we have the Jazz Festival, we have the Dragon Boat Festival, we have Pride Week, we have Santa Claus Parade, we have everything you can think of, we're hosting it. And it's, it's something that's been around in Toronto forever. So.
And I would guess probably multiple of because it's such a big metropolitan area, that there are probably sub-metropolitan areas that are probably even bigger than our area that also have their own fireworks and celebrations and brew fests. And do you guys have Renaissance fairs up there?
We probably do. I mean, we probably do. Like, look, I've been to a busker fest. I've been to a Trekkie convention. I'm sure there is. So I'm sure if you need to find a fair of some sort, it exists. I've been to an Elvis festival. I mean, there's everything. Everything.
It's truly like New York. There's pretty much, and with all the employers, you got a lot to choose from with employment and food and everything. So I love the eclectic nature of it. Food, vacationing. So here's a question, because I like to leave about 10 minutes for the prices. So we're ticking through that right now. But vacationing, would you drive? Would you go to those beaches on Lake Ontario or whatever lakes you're talking about? Or would you go somewhere else to vacation?
For me, we definitely leave the country when we were allowed.
The entire country.
Yeah. So we would leave. I mean, there's lots of places within Canada that we've gone to, but we like traveling internationally. But we drive to things on the weekends all the time. So we do. We've rented a cottage for a week. Like this summer, we rented a cottage for a week up north with my friends. We've rented places throughout Ontario to drive through too. But then my family has also traveled internationally. Part of that too is because of my job. A lot of times I would be traveling anyhow. So we love traveling internationally and have been to a lot of countries.
And what would the airport be? Is there a Toronto airport?
There is, and it's a big airport, and it's a big international airport. So it's Toronto Pearson, YYZ, is our airport code, and you can basically get to anywhere you want from there. We have some smaller airports as well. We have one that's on the Toronto Island that I used to use that, and that airport, it services more smaller. I used to use that to fly to New York because HBO's head office was in New York. So that was an easy one to fly to New York versus going to Pearson. But yeah, Pearson, you can get to anywhere in the world. It's
Awesome. And then last question before we get to what you get for the money. Stadiums, obviously you have all these pro teams. What would be the stadium you go to see? Justin Bieber's Canadian, isn't he?
He is, and Drake.
I use that name almost every time. I don't know why I do it, but that's the name I use when I'm talking about stadiums if you want to see a star. And he's Canadian, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's also Drake and The Weeknd. And yeah, we have Ryan Reynolds. I'm trying to think of the big ones that people know. Scotia Pond is our Scotiabank Arena is our major stadium for concerts because it also hosts the Maple Leafs. And if you are curious about that, it used to be called Air Canada Centre. So we do it switches dependent on the sponsor. And so the Blue Jays play in Rogers Centre, and the FC. I don't know what their stadium is called now, but it used to be sponsored by Bank of Montreal. So there's a few different, but the most famous one is the Scotiabank Arena. That's where Justin Bieber would play. That's where any major concert. We have a bunch of smaller ones. So, we have Budweiser Theater that I've gone to see, smaller. I went to see Lionel Richie at Budweiser Theater. So, by the way, he threw the best concert. People were making fun of me, and I was like, because the average age there was pretty high, but he was fantastic. But we've seen all the smaller concerts are like that, or a Budweiser Theater, and it's an open theater, and you go in the summer, and it's so much fun. That's also a great place. And so we have a lot of different venues for that. But the major one would definitely be Air Canada or Scotiabank.
It's a major city. So if the acts are stopping anywhere in Canada, the one place would probably be Toronto. So any act you're trying to see is probably going to be stopping there. And we've got about 5 minutes left. So we will get to the money question. Pun intended. What do you get for the money there? So average price here, let's say 250, 300 is kind of, used to be 200. You could get a half decent starter house. Now it's more like 250 to 300 ish. How does that compare to where you are? I've already prefaced that it's a much more expensive market, but maybe start with, I don't know what stuff starts at, and then, I don't know, give us whatever idea you want to give us.
So we're an expensive city. The average price of a home here is $1 million. So in US dollars, that's probably about $750,000 to $800,000. That's the average price. So if we get more into specifics, condos are average prices are around 700, townhomes are around 900, and detaches go up to 1.7. But that's average price. But you have to remember, we have areas in Toronto that have $20, $30 million homes. Like Drake lives in an area called Bridle Path that you can buy a home for that price. But I'd say, when you look at starter homes here, it would be a condo. And, for about 500,000 Canadian, you're going to get a 1-bedroom or a smaller condo. Then when you get up to between the 5 and 750, you're going to get into 2 bedrooms, and you might find smaller houses and things like that. But 1 million is really the sweet spot of opening up a lot of inventory across the board. You could possibly find a detached house, but you can find a townhome, you can find a semi-detached, you can find a high-end condo. Like there's a lot more options. But that's Toronto. And then as you move out of Toronto, the average price point comes down, your houses generally get bigger, and you have more options. So, and you know, housing prices in Toronto keep going up. So our immigration remains strong. Toronto is considered a safe city across the board. So The Economist magazine does an annual ranking of safe cities around the world, and they take 60 global cities and they rank them. And they rank them across 5 different categories. So it's like environmental safety, personal safety, infrastructure safety, health safety, and digital safety. And so, and it's across 72 different attributes of those. And Toronto came in second, and we came second to Copenhagen. And Toronto, and I have friends in Copenhagen, but Toronto is a bigger city and it's much more diverse. So the fact that we rank so high, so people like Toronto, they want to keep coming to Toronto, and it's a big place for immigrants, right? Like 50% of the population not born here. So this is why I think the real estate here continues to be strong, because it's just, you know, we always seem to have a pool of buyers that are interested in buying Toronto. And when you buy a house in Toronto, you know, you kind of know that your bank money is safe here and that the systems are in place and there's not going to be some sort of, you know, you feel safe in a lot of ways. So it's just a great place to invest. So that's
I think I could be wrong. Sorry, Copenhagen, and we got about a minute left, so that's why I'm interjecting here. But Copenhagen's been on, is always on the happiest places to live list. Copenhagen's always up on that stuff. So to see yourself up with Copenhagen, I think is pretty awesome, especially when it's such a big city. So we literally have about 50 seconds left before I have to cut it off. So real quick, tell me in about 10 seconds, if you could do anything else other than being a realtor, what would you do?
I did something else, and I'm a realtor. Love it. Love Toronto. Love talking about it. And I love like just talking, as you could tell. So this is a perfect job for me.
Awesome. And I'm going to leave, well, you can see her information there, but it'll also be in the description wherever you want to find it, and her YouTube channel where you can learn all about Toronto and more episodes coming out all the time. I'll put that in the show notes, as they call them, the description as well. Contact me if you need to buy or sell a home, or if you need to sell your house here to move to Toronto. I can hook you up with Connie. Call me, text me, email me, throw a rock through my window, send a carrier pigeon, whatever you need to do. We have about 10 seconds. Thanks for watching, and see you later. Say goodbye, Connie.
I hope you enjoyed the video. Like I mentioned before, this is a 2-part series, so we will link to part 1 down below. And I just wanted to thank you for joining us. And if this is your first time to the channel, please like and subscribe. It really helps us out. And make sure you hit that little bell notification so you know every single time that there's a new video. My name is Connie Sarvananthan, and this is Living in Toronto, and we help clients from around the world. So if you have any questions about living in Toronto, moving to Toronto, or buying and selling real estate in Toronto, then please reach out, call, text, email, or WhatsApp, and we'll be sure to take care of you. Thanks everybody, and have a great day.